Home-built arcade controllers. Well, here's an example of one. This is an old joystick that I built in 2002, 2003. It was made around Christmas at the time, and this is a renovated version. In this video I'm going to show you how we're going to improve this thing a little bit. For instance, these two new buttons have been added, and these two buttons are also new. So I'm going to show you a bit of the rebuild process, and also I'm going to show you the build process of a adapter interface for the PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 1 obviously. So I will show you a few of those things. For instance, you're going to see the assembly process of this, and this is the one of the 7 adapter interfaces that I've made for this joystick in the past years, and I called it the DYKO modular arcade system, and well, the name Mika Flex is just a fantasy word. It kind of it does not refer to the singer Mika. It has nothing to do with it. I came up with the name in fact a year before he became well known. I just wanted to create kind of a Japanese sounding word, and yeah, you could think of Pikachu for instance, or Mika, and flex refers to it's a flexible system. You can use it with multiple systems, and so this is just one of the many, and I'm going to show you the process how my dad and I built this out of a really cheap kind of Chinese knockoff PlayStation controller. And as you can see, this interface connects with a printer cable to the back of the arcade joystick. As you can see here, in the back is another 25-pin connector. So this is my home-built arcade joystick that I first built in 2002, originally for the megadrive. Sometime later I modernized it a bit, made it universal and suitable for other systems by using an interface. But now I want to upgrade it for use with PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 games. As you can see, there are not enough buttons. This controller was made for the Super Nintendo, so we have to find a way to botch in 2 additional buttons, because the PlayStation has a L1 and L2 and R1 and R2 button. So I'm wondering where I'm going to place them. I'm not quite sure yet, and also these start and select buttons I want to replace. I want to use this one for the start button, so it has to go about here. A look at the back. We can see some of the old markings I have here. For instance, this is the control interface that I use. It's standardized. It's just a standard DB25 interface. And the wiring is universal for all the systems that I use. This connects to an interface box that is different for each system. That interface box often contains just a hacked controller, and this is a bit of the back plate. Originally I built this in 2002 and 2003. And here's a really cheap PlayStation 1 controller that we're going to sacrifice for hacking into another interface box. So let's have a look inside. Let's open it up. This is just the wiring essentially, and this is another piece of wire, and that goes to the wiring here. This is the bit that connects up, and well, this is the wiring that my dad has done, and yeah, we're going to modernize this a little bit. So the new buttons have been installed. As you can see, this took about an hour or so. These two here, we could simply enlarge the holes. We just had to file them out. This is going to be the new start button and the new select button. And this is going to be L1 and R1 or L2 and R2. I'm not really decided how I'm going to configure that for the PlayStation. I think I'm going to install some toggle switch somewhere so that L1 and L2 and R1 and R2 can be switched depending on the preference of the game. This is a little scratch here that occurred during filing. Well, we kind of slipped up with the file, it just hit there. Not really a problem. I think I'm going to repaint the board sometime in the future. I've already repainted it, well, I think it was in 2006. Not really sure when I've done it, but it's been years ago. Originally it wasn't completely black, but sort of metallic black, and it wasn't smooth, and then I later repainted it. So that's basically the new buttons installed. And well, the next phase is I think going to be a new interface adapter for the PlayStation. And now we open the panel up and I'll flip it around. As you can see, these are the new start and select buttons. And well, this is really crammed together here. We didn't have a lot of space, so it was a bit fiddly to fit the switches in here so that they don't contact the other ones. And this is the existing start button, which is an illuminated switch, but the light has never been connected. So that was a look at essentially the placements of the buttons. So here's a little update. We have already stripped the controller. As you can see, this is the circuit board with a chip on board construction. Here is a breadboard with an Atmel microcontroller on it. Let's see what type it is. Yeah, it looks like, I can't read it in the display actually, but it's looks like, well, I can't read it, not even from here. Okay, that doesn't really focus. This is the cable. Here are some schematics. We are planning to use an 80 Mega 8 microcontroller from Atmel, kind of a low power version, and this is the essentially the casing of the controller. We've stripped it down. As you can see, it's empty. As you can, another thing, when you compare it against a genuine PlayStation controller, is how thin the plastic of these third-party ones are. It's really flimsy and thin, and the original ones, they just have much more body to them. And also, an original controller has nicely textured plastic, and this cheapy one hasn't really. So that's a bit of an update on that. And well, here is the joystick. It's not really completed yet. One thing that's interesting is that these micro switches are different than the ones I used originally. The original red buttons have Sherry micro switches in them, and these new black ones use Zippy ultralights. And I think these Zippies are much nicer. They are a lot lighter actually. So that was a bit of an update on the preparation. And the next bit is going to be soldering, I guess. Okay, we are soldering a bit of the wires to it. As you can see, this is the connector that goes into the adapter box. Here is an 80 tiny on the breadboard with some wires attached to it for testing. And this is the original El Cheapo gamepad circuit board. So the soldering is almost finished, more or less. Still need to attach about 6 wires. So this is a bit of the preparation stage. We've already assembled a part of the circuit board. The leads have been soldered to the connector. This is of course the cheap gamepad circuit board, and we have some standoffs glued on its back, and there's one of those Chinese QC pest stickers. So here is a bit that is a little bit further in the assembly stage. As you can see, it is almost finished. These wires over here still need to be soldered, and the 80 tiny chip still has to be installed, and then we have to put a wrapper around it to make it look a bit fancier, and then we just shut it with some tape, and then it's finished. It's finished. This is the completed circuit. As you can see, we've applied some tire wraps to neaten up the wiring a little bit. I've just tested it with Metal Gear and Rayman and a few other games, and it works a charm now. So it's time to close the lid on this one. So that was it. You've seen the build process, you've seen a little bit of me using the joystick. I've tested it with Castlevania Chronicles on the PlayStation 1 and Metal Gear on the PlayStation 2, the MSX version of Metal Gear. That's part of the Subsistence collection. People that have watched my video about Evil Scanavo DVD packaging know what game it is. It's that 3-disc version of Metal Gear Solid 3 that includes the bonus games, MSX games of Metal Gear. So I tested it with one of that, and well, I hope it gave you a bit of an impression how you can build your own arcade joystick or improve upon it, and I thank you for watching.